We are here because, and I have to say that this is generally the most popular of all the webinars that I do because, gosh, challenging behaviors. We all think of different things pop to mind. I'm sure there's a lot of commonalities, but we're all here because we and the people we love are experiencing challenges. And challenges is probably a gigantic understatement in many cases. So we're going to be looking at like what are these things that we're calling challenging behaviors. And so I know when you saw the webinar topic, I'm sure something jumped to mind right away in your particular case. We're going to look at what is making these challenges happen. How did we get here? What's happening? And we're going to be looking specifically at 6 pieces of the puzzle and what things are changeable and which things are not. We're going to look at us, and then including us as human beings. What do we need? What are the needs that we have to be met for us to be functional and content? And how can we know when those are not being met? We're going to look inside the brain and see deep inside into our primitive brain about the amygdala. We all have them. Here in this time of pandemic, they're often all being set off at the moment. So we'll dig deep into that because that's part of the puzzle as well. We'll look at how to get connected. We had a previous webinar about how to get connected through a positive physical approach, but we're going to revisit that a little bit in terms of how that fits into helping the person that we are caring for with dementia, living with dementia, and ourselves get connected even through these challenges. And we're going to look inward into ourselves and what our role is in these situations, what we can do that helps, what doesn't help, and our own needs and how we can move through life together in spite of all these challenges. So I'm going to take down the poll now. There we go. There we go. And move forward here. Let's see. So I would like you, you're probably all you might be sitting at a desk somewhere, or you have a little piece of paper, or I don't know if you printed out, if you downloaded the handouts. I want you to or you can just think to yourself for a second, or jot down, when you saw the topic here, what we were going to be talking about today, challenging behaviors in dementia care, what is the first thing that popped to mind? What challenge came to mind? You might have 2 or 3 that popped in at once. Go ahead and just jot them down or just mentally tick through them for a second. Uh, because there are so many different things, and each person that we're caring for is unique. And we, as the care partners, whether you're a professional caregiver or a family member, we're unique too. So we are a unique pair together going through this life. So I'm going to go to this next slide here and take a look here. This is a kind of a laundry list, I would say, of greatest hits of challenge, what people would call, I'm going to put the air quotes now because I'm going to move away from the term challenging behaviors in a little while. Challenging behaviors. You may see the one that came to your mind or that you jotted down here. Some of these might ring a bell. Some of the, losing things. I can't find my purse, but I hid it and I don't remember hiding it. Getting lost. Calling over and over and over again. 10 minutes later, I'm still calling about the same question I had before. Oh, so it's resisting, refusing care. I'm not going to read every single one, but there are so many. And then you see at the end of the list, we get down to things like falls and injuries, contractures, which is the physically closing up that way, infections and pneumonia towards the end of life with progression of dementia. These challenges come up as well. So I want to take a moment to pause for a second and look at this list here, and thinking about who are these challenges for. There's certainly challenges for us, So for example, I like these two because they're kind of 2 sides of the same coin. So I am taking off my clothes in the lobby of the care facility, and I'm undressing when you don't want me to, and then when you want me to take my clothes off, I absolutely refuse. I don't need a shower. I just took a shower. No, these are not the same clothes I've been wearing all week. I just put these on, and you know full well that I have not showered in maybe months. So the challenge is on two sides. All of us are having these challenges together, and all of these are related to the changes in my brain, because these things that you see here on this list are not things that were probably happening before. Maybe to a certain extent, I might have like not I might have swore a little in my lifetime, but now I'm swearing a lot more often, and it's a lot worse. The type of language that I'm using is worse. So there's a change. All these challenges are a change from what it used to be. So I'm going to pause us and look at what I talked about: the two people, the person living with dementia that you care for, whether you're professional or home, and you, the relationship. I want us to keep in mind that the relationship is the most critical thing as we work through moving through these challenging behaviors together, and that we are the key. We are the key, because the challenges that they're having, the behaviors that you're seeing, are all a result of dementia. We are the ones with the healthy brains who can be adaptable and to make some changes. We have to be willing to change. So part of the beginning of being willing to change is understanding what the heck's going on. And so that's what we're going to be digging into today. So it takes two to tango or tangle. So we can, if you take your two hands, here's person living with dementia. You can do this in real life, and here's you. So put your hands together, and if you push and push on that other hand, so you have to take a bath, Dorothy. The other person just pushes back, and you end up in this head-butting, endless arguments, and even possibly a physical push and pull in there. We're going to learn to come together and dance with our partner, and be willing to stop when we realize we're getting into this headbutting situation where I'm saying the same thing over and over to you. Uh, Take a time out, back off. And this is very, very important. Being right doesn't necessarily translate into a good outcome. It's great. We are right a lot of the time. We can see the problems that they're having, the danger that they're putting themselves or others in. We can see the mistakes that they're making, and we're correct about all those things. But being right doesn't make the outcome better, because no matter how much you try and convince me that I've made this mistake, I can't see it, and it's because of the changes in my brain. So being able to let go of being right, even when you know you're 100% right, that is a very, very tall challenge, but we're going to work on that today, so we can have a better daily life for all of us. So why is it so difficult? It's so difficult because it's so complicated. Our brains are very complicated organ, and they control everything about what we do and say. So it's not just about the memory that's affected, is what we think about with dementia, but how I can think things through or not anymore, the words I have or don't have anymore, my control of my emotions, my actual actions. I'm picking up things and eating things that are not edible. Like, what the heck is going on? So many things are affected, and it's so unique to each person, and because of the type of dementia that they might have, and from moment to moment. So I might be a lot sharper in the morning, and by the afternoon I'm extremely confused, or vice versa. So being a caregiver in that situation that is changing, and over time is changing, because all forms of dementia are degenerative brain disease, and my brain is changing. It is shrinking and dying, and different parts are becoming affected newly, and parts that were affected previously are being affected more. So that's why these challenges are so challenging. So we want to think about how we can understand what's happening, so we can respond and not react. Because in the moment, when something unexpected, surprising, scary, tragic happens, we react. So when I see my father had vascular dementia, and he fell down a lot. And when he would stand up and start walking without his walker, the first thing we would say is, "Oh, your walker, don't sit down, sit down, sit down," because it scares the crap out of us. We've been to the hospital so many times because of that. Whew, but I need to figure out how to respond. Why is it happening? Why is he standing up? What can I do to help? And how can I can help us move calmly through this? So we're gonna take a peek. Jody sent the link to one of the two handouts too. There was a 2-page handout that was sent out, and I'll show you. And it's basically a large printout of these two slides. The next one and the one after. The first one is the 6 pieces of the puzzle. So when we're thinking about the person that we're trying to help living with dementia, I want us to take a moment to remember they are not different than us. These 6 pieces of the puzzle apply to them, and it applies to us. They are living with brain change, and we also are living with a little brain change, right? As the caregivers, that's an incredible amount of stress that affects your cognitive function, and your well-being and your health. And I've said this in previous webinars, take a moment to acknowledge that we're living through very unprecedentedly stressful times in a pandemic. So we need to look at our own 6 pieces as well. So each of these can affect how we move through the day, how we're feeling, and how we respond to certain situations. So the first one is considering the person. They are the person first. Their brain change came later. It didn't come right away. This is something that is happening that they did not have a choice about, and they can't change. So, but thinking about who they are who they were, but they're different now. But things, if they were a strong introvert who didn't like being in large crowds, that would be me. It's very unlikely that I will like to sit in a crowded at a crowded table for a bingo game. There'd probably just be too many people, and you wouldn't be able to convince me to sit there, because that is just not who I am. I don't like to be in a crowd like that. So knowing the person, that is the first, and this, as professionals, trying to get to know the person through information from the family and learning what they were. Were they professional? Were they someone who worked with children? Do they have these certain likes and dislikes? All those things will play into how I react, how me, the person living with dementia, will react to the world around me, and to you, the person who's trying to help me. The second piece of the puzzle, the fitness, health, and wellness. These are the things that I would say we in the healthcare industry are pretty good at. We can monitor the intake of food and fluid. There are medications and supplements, and do you take them or not? Monitoring the side effects, looking at emotional stressors, if there's an acute illness. So these are things that I have going on right now, and at different ages. So as I'm a person living with dementia who a lot of time is older, might have a lot of other medical issues going on as well. So it's not just about their dementia. There's a lot of things going on in this one. So there are medications that are affecting their behavior or their overall wellness. Just one second, here we go. And then the third one here, the brain change. So dementia is a syndrome, a collection of symptoms. And so there's Alzheimer's type of dementia, vascular dementia, which my father had, my grandmother had Alzheimer's dementia, Parkinson's related dementia. Each one is unique, affects the brain a little bit differently. My self-awareness of the changes is probably pretty low. There are some people who are living with dementia, especially in the earlier stages, who might be aware that there are changes, but most of the time people are not aware. They're not aware of the mistakes that they're making or the progression that's going on. And again, this will change over time. So these top 3, you'll notice these top 3 are outlined. Sometimes I wave my hand like you can see what I'm pointing at my screen. These top 3 are outlined in gray here. I want us to stop for a moment and look at these 3 pieces of the puzzle. A thing about we as care partners, caregivers. And I say partners because we are partners in this. It's not just a one-way street. I can't just do to you and make things better. We have to move together through this life. How much influence do we have over these first three pieces of the puzzle? Who they were, what their current health situation is at this age, at this place in their lives, and their dementia. So if you think to yourself for a second, not a ton. These things are pretty set. Not that there's nothing we can do, but these are more things that we have less influence over at this point. But these bottom three is where I want us to think about where we have the opportunity to make changes. So first, number 4, the stakeholders. And who are these stakeholders? We often just think about person and caregiver. When one person is living with dementia, everybody around them is as well. So who are all these people? You know, what is the whole situation? So it could be family members, it could be neighbors, even the person delivering the mail, all kinds of things. So think about, you can use your thumb here. So there's stakeholders that thumbs up when they're around, their interactions, they are helping make things better. Those are the greatest kind to have around all the time. We all can't be this all the time, but, and then put your thumb sideways. Middle. So it's not making it worse, not making it better, kind of a neutral stakeholder. And then there are stakeholders. And then when I say thumbs down, generally we say thumbs down is like completely negative in terms of like a judgment, but I'm not doing it that way. These are stakeholders, and they can be someone who's the closest to that person, the spouse, the child, but they're just really struggling, and their presence or approach is bringing things down, making it more difficult. And sometimes we have to look into ourselves, and we will today, that sometimes we are doing that, and when we don't mean to, because we love the person, but figuring out how we affect the situation. The environment. So a lot of our environment right now is prescripted to being at home and not as varied as it used to be. But whatever the environment is, whether it's a care facility or at home, or if someone goes to an adult day program, there are these, you see these letters underlined, 4 F's and 4 S's. So these are things, the 4 F's and 4 S's: friendly, familiar, functional, and forgiving. The space, the sensation, the surfaces, and the social aspect of it. If any of these don't feel right, then I'm not going to be comfortable being there. So a simple example of something I had happen at Halikuike was we have these chairs, and they have nice, soft, supportive seats for residents, dining chairs. And one of the staff members sat in one of those chairs and noticed that there was a spring poking up, and it wasn't through the fabric, so you couldn't see it, but it was poking. So we, naturally, you feel something poking your backside, you're like, oh, and then so they brought me the chair. This chair needs repair. Great. How many residents might we have had sitting on that chair who could not tell us exactly what they were experiencing, to say, hey, you need to get this chair fixed because it has a spring poking me in my backside, who just would stand up and stand up and stand up and be repeatedly what? You need to sit down, you need to sit down. So that's a concrete reaction to something in the environment that is not, it's a response to a sensation, and it doesn't feel good. So, but one that we were unaware of. And the last one here is time. Time. How are the days structured for the person? So think to yourself for a moment, the first 4 categories: productive, leisure, wellness, and restorative. Things that make us, offer us value and purpose, things that we do just for fun. And sometimes because we just want to do it. It's not necessarily about the money. Wellness, how we give ourselves self-care, and things that calm and recharge us. So if you were to draw yourself a circle with a pie chart, and give yourself little wedges for each of these, you can think about how much time you do for each of those categories. And for a lot of us, if we're still productive is a big part of our day. Sleep can be restorative, but there might be other things that are restorative for us. Recharge my batteries. For myself, maybe it's gardening or reading a book or something like that. So we try and have a balance. Sometimes we're out of balance, and we need to work to increase things like our wellness, for example. That would be for me. But then think about the person who's living with dementia. They have the same needs to feel valued, to have fun, to feel like they're caring for themselves, to have that restorative. If you were drawing a pie chart for them, what would that look like? And include one last piece of their pie: waiting. Waiting. How much of their day do they spend waiting? Um, and think about how you feel when you have to wait. So if you were going to put waiting in your pie chart, it would probably be a very small wedge, because we are terrible at waiting. We don't like to wait in line. If you see a long line, like at the grocery store, you're like, I'm not standing in that line. Or you might even walk into a place and see that. We're like, okay, I'm going to shop another day. I'm not going to, we're trying to game the lines. Which lane are we driving in? That we are terrible at waiting, because our brains don't like it. And we get anxious. We can get angry. We can get impatient. All those things while we're waiting. And people who are living with dementia are no different. But think about, just for a moment, and you can sketch that out on your paper there. What percentage of the day does the person that you're caring for spend waiting to be helped to come to the dining room, waiting for something to happen? So uh, here we go. Here. The next thing I want to take a look at with you is, again, as us as human beings, what are our needs that we have to have met in order to feel good in life? So I'm going to use hands. So 5 emotional needs, 5 physical needs. So we're going to do the physical ones first. And if you have no shame, you can do these with me. And it really does help you remember. So the first one, intake. I'm going to do like this, like I'm drinking. Bottoms up. Hunger and thirst. I need to eat when I'm hungry, and to drink. And so that gets interfered with dementia. So I might be eating everything in sight, or I might not be remembering to eat. The problem of dehydration is very common with older people, not just people living with dementia. By the time they feel thirst, they might already a little dehydrated, or there might be sometimes older adults might, because of incontinence issues, might not want to drink as much, or develop a habit of not drinking as much because they don't want to go to the bathroom or have an accident. So yeah, that can be a big issue. And if I'm feeling either of those things, even if I can't articulate it, that can be something that comes up. So the second one, energy. So I have a lot of energy, vroom, off the ceiling, or I'm really tired, I have no energy. So up and down energy. So if I have a lot of energy and I don't have a way to expend that energy, then that things might start to escalate. So I'm going to be constantly trying to get up again. That's a very common one people struggle with, because of the risk of falling. But how can you help me expend some of that energy in some way? Or I'm overly tired. So if I'm up all night, for example, and then I'm tired all day, things might, that's another kind of challenge related to energy. So eliminations, it's hard to show this in person, but I'm pointing down to my private area. I have to go, or I just did. So maybe I'm constipated, and we all know what that feels like, to be constipated. Again, hard to stay seated. It's a kind of pain and discomfort. And when our brains are under discomfort, they do not function well. So that's something that will affect my behavior. So maybe I'm constipated, I haven't gone in a few days. Maybe I have a bladder infection, and I can't articulate that either. Or maybe I just went, I'm incontinent, and I'm wearing a brief, and I just went, but I can't quite process what just happened. But you know what? This feels a little weird. So again, my behavior is affected because of that. Discomfort. This is a common one. I'm too cold, right? Skin and subcutaneous fat is changing as you get older, and they're cold all the time. The sensation, that goes back to that chair example I gave, discomfort. And then the last one, so, oh, I'm sorry, elimination is the middle finger. Discomfort, this one is kind of hard to put down, so you can remember that one by, it's hard to put that finger down. It doesn't feel good. It's a, that we don't control that finger very well. And the last one is small but mighty. Pain, 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 pain. What is this one? The most common source of pain for the elderly that we care for? Arthritis. But I might not be able to, again, to articulate, to say, my joints are hurting. But you might see it in my face. You might see it in my words, because maybe I'm just upset because I'm feeling this pain, but I can't articulate it. So 5 physical needs: intake, energy, elimination, discomfort, and pain. So when we start to see those challenges that we talked about in the very beginning, this is where we're putting on, or I should have mentioned this right at the beginning, putting on a detective hat, like a Sherlock Holmes hat, because we as human beings are such complicated animals. To look at those 6 pieces of the puzzle and then look at these 10, we really need to take our time and step back and look at it, not just like, oh my God, they're acting crazy, or they're asking, what's happening, what's underneath, or is it any of these physical needs? If you eliminate all of these and say, no, they just ate and drank, they got a good night's sleep, go to the bathroom, their incontinence brief is dry, they're wearing a sweater, and they had their pain medication. Okay, but it's not that. Let's go to the other hand. So emotional needs, we all have them, even if sometimes we try and ignore them. But we need to look at them and acknowledge them. None of these are bad. There's no, all the emotions have purpose. Number 1, put your thumb up here, and then cross it over your other 4 here. Number 1, anger. This is the one. Anger can mask the other 4 emotions down below: sad, lonely, scared, and bored. And then make this fist and shake it up. Angry. I'm so angry, but my anger might be because it's covering up something else. It might even be because of one of the 5 on the other hand, and I'm expressing it through anger here. But if you can help relieve my pain, relieve my constipation, that anger might be able to dissipate here. But when we're faced with this anger, it's scary. Oh, they're agitated, they're aggressive. Yes, but what's behind it? What's behind it? Here. So, and each of these, it's important to look at them, not just the bold titles here, but what's underneath, because we don't start out at furious. All these challenges. So I'm going to take a moment and switch now from challenging behaviors to the term expressive communication, because they're trying, just like us, all human beings, they're trying to tell us something. Things have changed in their brains. Their language is not processing the same way. For example, they are not able to express it the way they used to be. So they're trying to tell us something. Expressive communications. Now, I'm not diminishing that it's challenging. It is. But expressive communication. So we don't start at furious. Everything starts lower and then works their way up. So if we can notice this first one, angry, when it's just at the lower level of irritated, but a lot of the challenges that we often run into as care partners is we can ignore irritated, right? The first one on each of these levels, we can ignore for a little while. And then, but once it gets to the top here, when I'm furious and I am ramming the door with my walker, because I got to get the hell out of here, right? I'm like throwing it. That's when, oh, we got to do something, right? Which is true. But what was going on before? What was going on 30 minutes before? 30 minutes before that? What was the night before like? All those kinds of things. We didn't get here immediately, right? We have to go through these steps. Number two, I'm going to make a little teardrop. Sadness. Sadness. Feeling dissatisfied, sad, or hopeless. And being there with and for the person through these challenging emotions, the emotions that we love, all happy, happy, joyful, things like that. That's easy to be there together with someone. But to be together, and again, back to this time, this pandemic time, when we are feeling sad and lonely and scared and bored at home, um, to acknowledge it together and just like and to be there. So that's really really important. Third one, lonely. I'm sticking my middle finger a little bit. I could feel lonely even when I'm with other people. I'm not well. I have an inability to connect, maybe, or I feel I might be feeling abandoned. Number four, scared. So starting at anxious, scared, and to terrified. Now, scared. I want to say a little something special about scared. Scared is often hidden by anger. So I'm yelling at the caregiver who wants to come into my apartment, and I'm living in a long-term care facility, saying, "You get the hell out of my room." I seem like I'm super super angry, right? But you know how animals. I love chickens, by the way. You know, roosters puff themselves up. I'm trying to make myself big to scare you off, because inside, what's underneath that is fear. Someone dressed just like you in that same color scrub gave me a shower yesterday, and I don't remember the details, but I know, you know, I feel that I feel terrified, and I'm going to show you anger because I'm trying to save myself, even though you know that you were just trying to help. You know, we're just, you know, it's not anyone's fault. Uh, and then the last one, again, another small but mighty one that gets ignored is boredom. I'm disengaged. I'm bored. I don't feel a sense of purpose. What am I doing here? Why am I still alive? So these two. So here's the physical needs here. I'm going to put the emotional ones over them. They can mask. Sometimes they're masking the physical needs. So do your detective work and check out the 5 physicals, and don't be afraid to check out the emotional ones as well. Okay. So when someone is distressed and up at this level here, so if you think to yourself, I want you to think to the last time someone came to you when you were upset about something and said, "Calm down." You just have to calm down, uh, or shh, calm down. Shh, okay. When you're feeling really really upset about something, how does that make you feel? Have you ever wanted to calm down when someone was telling you to calm down? Or have you ever had a person who's living with dementia calm down when you told them to calm down? Probably not. Because when someone tells you to calm down, they are telling you what you are feeling is not valid. It's like, don't tell me to calm down. That my purse was stolen. You're you're not acknowledging what I'm going through, what I'm feeling. And so we're going to pause that calm down and first connect. And this kind of harkens back to the other webinar that I did on the positive physical approach of connecting with them as a person first, getting connected and reflecting back what they're going through. Someone stole your purse? That's terrible. Yeah, someone stole my purse. And here they are, high up, really upset. So put your hand up here if you can. Come right under it. Come right under it. So I'm going to meet them where they are, and we're going to go down together, and I will get calmer, and they can get calmer together with me, and we will move together to a new place. But they cannot, if you grab that thumb and try and drag it down, calm down, that it doesn't work for us, and it doesn't work for them. So when you're trying something, if you're trying, this is the hard part, is being able to step out of your own head for a moment. When something is not working, right? If you find yourself saying the same thing over and over again, sit down, sit down, sit down. Your walker, no, no, no. Stop, pause, and realize you're getting as rigid and confrontational as you think the other person is getting. Back off, and think it through. Sometimes you might need to take a moment to think it through, because the other thing that we need to think through when we stop and back off, how urgent is this? How much of an emergency is that? Is this really? Is this a life-threatening thing? Well, we don't have snakes in Hawaii, but sometimes we react as everything, like everything is a snake that we have to react to. But hold on a moment. So I'm going and opening the fridge a lot of times. I know it's letting the cold air out, but is this a life-threatening thing? No. Pause. How many of us do that? But maybe not 20 times in 30 minutes. But yeah, try and stay calm and recognize what's at this level. This is irritating. This is for us. What's irritating for us, right? And all the way at the top, truly dangerous. We need to make that judgment and then reapproach based on that. Because here's what's going on. It's all about the brain, their brain and our primitive brains are in this together. So the very center of your brain, you can see here, this is a normal, healthy brained individual with a PET scan. This is someone with early dementia, early Alzheimer's, and this is someone towards the end of life, and this is a 18-month-old child. So we can see we all have them, and it remains through the end. It's our thrive to survive part of the brain that keeps us going. It keeps us safe, fight, fright, flight. So when we sense danger in some way, that fight, fright, flight kicks in. And that's where that anger comes up, all those kinds of reactive emotions that are even physical reactions. Now think to yourself for a second. Some of you might be more fighters. Some might be more flighters, like I got to get the heck out of here. And some fright, which is freezing. You might have a tendency towards one of these. So if you are threatened or startled or scared, you might tend to react a certain way first. Same for the people that we're caring for. But what happens is, when you think about what happens when your brain gets that way, like you almost hit somebody with the car, so a car almost hits you or something like that, right? Your agitation level is up here. And it takes a while for it to come down. It's hard to come down once it's up here. So we want to think about how we can avoid triggering that. The other side of our primitive brain is the pleasure seeking. We need to feel good. We need to feel joy. Now this one also controls our things that we don't have to think about, like our vitals, your heartbeat, wake, sleep, hunger, thirst, all those kinds of things. And also has a role in learning and information. So deep in there is our amygdala. This is the part of our limbic system that is our threat perceiver and pleasure seeker. And it has two sides. Here we go. And when it is triggered, and this is where the challenges come in here, when our primitive brain takes over, and think to that, what I asked you to think about, when you are like you almost got hit. Your language and speech centers, you have a healthy brain. What kind of words come out of your mouth when someone almost hits you? Probably not full sentences, probably curse words. Our higher language center shuts off, and we go to those strong, powerful words like, oh, that is perfectly normal. And so we can't speak clearly. When we have a fear and you're shaken, you can't get a full sentence out. And it's because of your amygdala has kicked in. Your occipital lobe, that's the back of your head, you get tunnel vision. So you can't process what's on the outside. It becomes more tunnel vision. Your frontal cortex, so touch the front of your head, your higher emotion, your behavior, your judgment, your reasoning, that kind of goes out the window because it's all about staying alive. So this is when our amygdala takes over because we feel a threat. And that's our healthy brains. Someone who's living with dementia has challenges with these already, with changes in language. This is a healthy brain. This is someone at the end of life with Alzheimer's. The occipital lobe, there's already changes in active visual field, so they have more of a tunnel vision. They're already having challenge with emotions, behavior, judgment, reasoning, because it changes to their prefrontal cortex. And now you add on the amygdala response for feeling threatened. When and by feeling threatened doesn't mean that you were actively threatening me. I just feel that way because I'm not understanding what's going on, not understanding what the situation is. So when that turns on, my fight, fright, flight is up. And when I'm hurting and I need relief, I need it now. I cannot wait. That's when it's at its height. Its height. So you can see there's the like, want, need, alert, arouse, dangerous. So we want to be aware of how we want to try to intervene and help before it gets to this high level. There. So how can we do that? How can we help? We want to get connected. So even when someone is actively upset, and so I'll give an example for myself at Hali Kuike, right? So we had a resident who wanted to go into the commercial kitchen, or had gotten to the door and it was like not all the way closed and the way it should have been. And so she had her walker and she started to go in, and the staff member intervened and like right ahead of her before she got there and closed the door and stood in front of the door. So that if you were trying to go through a door and somebody had done that to you, what would your reaction be? Probably if someone just like jumped in front of you and closed the door. One, you'd be startled, right? Because someone just jumped into your visual field. Two, you'd be pissed off because who are they to tell you you can't go through that door, right? And we don't like people so close in our space either. So this resident got really upset, right? And so her amygdala went off, right? Right? She was trying to do something and it was interrupted. And so there's a perceived threat, even though we were trying to help, trying to keep her safe. And so she started whacking her walker on the ground, whacking her walker on the ground. And what happens when someone gets agitated that high? Everybody has to step back, right? Because it's dangerous. It's a dangerous situation. But acknowledging what happened, of course, we're not able to explain to her because of her level of dementia about why she couldn't go through that door. But we needed a way to have her feel safe again and not threatened. So I went up to her from a distance using the positive physical approach and kind of got into her visual cue, and she's upset. So I made an upset face because this is wrong. And I reached out my hand and waited. And then she reached out her hand and she said, "This is not good." And I said, "No, it's not good, not good. Let's get out of here." "Yeah, let's get out of here." And we moved on to that new place without having to explain, no, I'm sorry, you can't go through that door. That's the kitchen. No, he's not a bad man. He wasn't trying. Forget all that. I just need to be able to connect with you as a human being, have you allow me to get close to you and acknowledge your anger and that this felt wrong to you, because it was. Um, so getting a visual connection first, then verbal, then touch. Because what we went through, what we did in an effort to help was kind of touch and auditory first, right? No, let me jump in here and actually put my arm up so you don't go in there. So then that leads to being startled. So sometimes we can feel we can be perceived as confrontational even when we don't mean to, even when we're being friendly, not jumping in front of a door like I just described, but just standing in front. So if you are the person sitting down and I'm standing here to say hi, how are you doing? You look, no, it doesn't look very great. And we feel very close. So if you look at these pictures here, this is a parent and this is a teacher, and compare it to the bottom two pictures. This is one of our nurses and me at Hali Kuike. One of the things that you can kind of think about when you're thinking about what's a confrontational stance versus supportive, two things. One is if you're standing straight in front of the person, close up, like close enough to touch them. We as human beings it feels weird. We want to kind of step back. People who stand there are authority figures, parents, teachers, people who are trying to, It's a dominating stance, even though we don't mean it to be a lot of the time. And the other is the eye level. So you can see here, of course, these are children. So there's that eye. This is a superior dominating uh, view here. Many of our seniors are often sitting. We're often standing, right? So we accidentally are in that position of being above them, looking down, looking down. So that is also can be very threatening. And so when you're standing in the front, you're blocking their view. So you can't see anything that's behind me. There doesn't seem to be a way out from, if you don't want to talk to me, where are you going to go? But if I'm on the side here, it feels very different, and you'll see in the bottom. That's called a supportive stance. So whether I'm standing or sitting, I'm going to be a little bit to the side. It's less threatening, and they don't feel trapped. So even something as simple as that, when you're coming up to a person, thinking about where you're standing makes a difference. It makes a difference to how their brain will react to you. So we have visual cues that we can use. So this is especially important now when we're all wearing masks a lot, is using, for anything you want to say, use a visual cue, whether it's your hands, stand up, facial expressions, your eyes can still smile, right? And doing demonstrations, like you want something to drink. So sometimes our challenges come when we think they're understanding what we're saying, but they're not because of language changes. They're nodding, but they're not because of language changes, their comprehension changes, and we're a lot of times now we're wearing the masks and it's hard to read lips. Keep verbal cues, keep it simple, match it to your visual cues, right? And then comes the touch. So hand under hand guidance, having a hand on the shoulder and the back. We as human beings touch your own shoulders. We like weight on the joints. Feels good. Feels good. Helping here, the muscle body there, it doesn't feel as good to us. So touching in places that we as human beings like, palm to palm, on the joint, that can be very, very soothing. So I'm going to pause here for a second. I kind of do a little review. These are the questions that we looked at on the pre-test here. So the topic of reality orientation. So when communicating with someone living with dementia, reality orientation is not generally an effective strategy. It used to be the standard for caregiving, that this is how we do it. Hello everyone, today is October 15th, 2020, and make sure everybody knows what day it is, what year it is. If someone thinks their husband has passed, we're going to tell them that, oh no, he passed away 10 years ago. Here's his obituary. But I'm going to pause us and take a step back because of the changes in the brain that we were looking at. Their reality is different than ours. We talked a little bit about arguing, but it's hard to let go of our reality and enter theirs. But if I am saying things that don't make sense, and you, for example, that I'm looking for my husband and he's passed away, or in the case of my grandmother, she was looking for her parents, and then she was in her 80s, and I remember once saying to her, well, your parents can't be alive, you're 82. Well, if she knew how old she was, and if her brain were functioning properly, she would not have made that mistake. And my pointing it out to her didn't help her. What do you mean they're dead? It's a hard thing to let go of, our reality, because we are living it, but we have to acknowledge that their reality is as real as ours. It is as real as ours, and it's because of the brain changes that they're living in a different reality. So that is false. Reality orientation is rarely effective. Getting a person to understand the facts as we see them. This goes back to being right. So I know full well that you can't, you can't drive because you've had 10 accidents, and I can show you the record, the police records. None of that is going to make me understand and agree. So it only leads to this kind of head butting. So, yeah. The other thing here is about the confrontational. We did that about the body language. Yes, we can be perceived as confrontational, even though we are being loving. We're trying, but it's our how our brains are hardwired. And then true, 5 basic physical needs that we all need. If any of these are not being met, we are not going to be behaving well either. And then, is it important to point out what someone with dementia, living with dementia, is doing wrong? I would. We see it, and we cringe. We all kinds of emotions come up. I want us to remember. Take a moment to remember that the reason they're making these mistakes, is because of the changes and the deterioration in the brain, and they don't have the awareness. If they knew, they wouldn't be making these mistakes. So again, pause. I can't perceive it. And even when you point it out to me, you point out that I've had a BM accident or I have things, I still can't see it. And I'm not being stubborn. And I might be a stubborn person, which I can be, but that's not the reason why you're getting that kind of pushback. Um, and also think to yourself, when you have made a mistake, how do you like having it pointed out? Of course, it depends how it's pointed out. But if someone jumps in to tell you, like, oh, no, 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 that doesn't go, again, startling, and you get that amygdala response there. So we want to take a look, and there we did a full webinar on this topic that Jody has shared, and it's all in one central place, links to the video if you wanted to see it, about this GEM state. So this is a way of looking at the progression of dementia. And so this GEMS wheel here, so we're all familiar with early, middle, late, or our numeric system, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This one here that we use with the positive approach to care puts it on a circle as opposed to a scale, and is trying to look at them not as one is better than the other, but we're all in this together. And so the first one, the sapphire, the blue, true blue, that's us. That is our brains. Right now, our brains are under kind of a lot of stress, but we as we age, there are changes in our brains, but we're slower, but we can still do it. But it just might take us a little bit longer. It's not dementia. So sapphire is the gem that supports all the others. Diamond is the earlier stage, right, where there might have a lot of repetition. So when you think about the behaviors list that we looked at the very beginning, repeating the same questions, being very rigid, having to have the same routine. This is my chair. This is exactly, that goes there, not here. That's a part of a stage of living with dementia. And also cutting. Diamonds, the diamond itself is a hard stone used for cutting. I can be very, you seem as rude. Be nice. I'm standing in the grocery line and I'll make a loud comment about what the lady over there is wearing. She shouldn't be wearing those spandex pants. And I'll say it really loud. You're like, shh, Mom, God, don't talk so loud. What? I'm just saying. It's and sometimes in hindsight it can be very comical, but in the moment it's mortifying. But again, it's because of my changes in brain. Emeralds is where I'm starting to make more and more mistakes, but I'm unaware. I'm on the go. I might not be sure where. Ambers, we're getting towards the middle stages where I'm very sensation focused. I'm very much in the moment. The only thing that matters is what's in front of me right now. And then ruby, red is for stop. I start to lose my gross motor. I have trouble getting started. I have trouble stopping once I get started. And then the last one, pearl, which is hidden in the oyster shell, as my body is starting to shut down. I'm reaching the end of my life. I become rigid and immobile. So figuring out where is that person in this, and because these brain changes that are progressing will also affect what kind of challenges and your response there. But I'm going to pause for a second, and I want us to think about us, because I kept saying we're in this together. We're in this together. What I do and how I feel matters to what the outcome is for this challenging behavior that the person that I'm, or expressive communication that this person that I'm caring for has or is experiencing. So what for yourself? Think for a moment for yourself. What are your triggers for you to become rigid and inflexible and maybe cutting. What are those stressors that for you? So because the first step, when we talked at the beginning of this webinar about responding instead of reacting, being able to identify what those triggers are for you so you can plan ahead and maybe even practice how you're going to respond when for example, I had a resident whose mother insisted that they had paid for everything in this family member, their child's life. Like, I bought her that house, I bought her, and that wasn't true. And it was just something that was a real trigger for the child. That's like, just like, no, because it just made them really upset. It was very, very personal, and they got into a lot of arguments about that. So planning what the response would be, because the mother could not say those things, and she believed them to be true, but how the child respond would be what we could plan. So for yourself, if you could jot down what your triggers are for, we'll call it going diamond, when you become rigid and inflexible, and what might be a strategy. When you first step is recognizing it, okay, this is my trigger. What will help you? So your amygdala went up. What's going to help you bring it down? Do you need to step away, like physically take a step back? Do you need to take a breath? Do you need to step out of the room, right? Do you need to go lie down in the grass outside? Whatever it is, plan. Think about it and plan. Sometimes you might do this planning in hindsight after you do lose your cool. And again, we are human beings. We are not robots. There are going to be times we are going to lose our patience. We are going to, and again, especially during this pandemic time. So I'm going to go forward. So one person cannot care for someone living with dementia 24/7 by themselves. We need help. This is not a time to be a lone ranger. I know it's a very old reference, but we need to have a supportive team, building it early. Again, that will help with going through the challenging behaviors will happen. Um, uh, so how do we go through it? If we don't have the help we need, we will miss those early signals. I talked about noticing it early, or we'll ignore it because I don't have time to do this right now. We'll worry about it constantly. Our own health will be affected, and we'll react or overreact instead of responding. So look around, think for yourself right now. Who are the people, and even as professionals, who are the people around you that you can go to when you need that support? Because everybody has to pull together to help in this case. It's not just a matter of you making that person living with dementia do this thing. This is where we want to have that self-awareness and notice when we're doing these things, because it does happen. Arguing, ignoring things because either maybe you're not sure how to respond to them, or you feel like you can safely ignore it because there's other things going on. Trying something only one time. When you're looking at those 6 pieces of the puzzles and you're trying to make an adjustment, you might have to try it a few times, and one time will not be enough. And don't give up. There is hope. There is approaches that will help. When we're talking about challenging behaviors, it's not about, there's no magic wand or magic pill, although the medications can have a role, but it's about improving quality of life for you and the person living with dementia. And it might be, so for example, in my grandmother's case, she would come out of her room and ask the same question every couple minutes. So, how many times is that? And we would always just give the same answer over and over until we're both so exasperated that we're shouting the answer. Pause. What can we do? I can't stop her from asking the question, but instead of 50 times an hour, can I get it down to half that? So it's about turning down the volume in the sense of, or the frequency of this behavior, so that it's not up here, that we can have some breathing room. go forward here. So what should we do? You're already doing step number one by attending these kinds of webinars, and the other ones that Catholic Charities are sponsoring is building and using your skills, because this is not something we're all born knowing. I can tell you, my grandmother, when she had Alzheimer's, her first symptoms started in about 1987 or so, 85, 87 in hindsight. We didn't know anything, zero skills. You're just flying by the seat of your pants. You know, I know sometimes parenting is like that too, but you know, learning as you go, remembering who has a healthy brain. People living with dementia really are doing the best they can in any given moment. And I want to extend that to you too, to you as the caregiver. We are doing the best we can. We're really trying in any given moment. But so remember that you'll make mistakes, but the important thing is to learn from them. So all the experience I know for me that I've had making plenty of mistakes with my own family members and with residents who I've worked with at Halikuike is those moments where, you know, as they say, hits the fan, recognize, oh, uh-oh, back off, rethink, think like, oh, think back in time. I like to think of it like rewinding. What was going on before that? Like, oh, I didn't realize, you know, that this was something that was going to set this off. And then you can change and try again. And sometimes that is one thing I have to say, that you get a lot of second chances with caring for someone living with dementia, to try it again. You know, trying it, you know, I might have lost my cool with my grandmother when she was asking the same questions, but when she came out again, I had a chance to try something different because it was the first time for her. And to let it go and forgive yourself, because you are only human. And again, we are under unprecedented stress at this time. So getting help, getting support for you, help with the person. Sometimes you need to step away. You can't be 24/7 like this. So when the dementia is getting bigger and bigger, when it's this big, you can't be this close all the time. Like, you need to get some space. But otherwise, you can only see the dementia. You start to not be able to see the person anymore. Checking out options for support. It might be through home care, daycare, residential care, or other people who can come and help give a little bit of break, family members. Plan ahead and acting before it's a crisis. And this last one's most important, watching yourself for signs of burnout. Set limits for yourself, because this is a marathon. It can, depending on the person and the kind of dementia, it can be a decade or more. So my grandmother, I mentioned her first signs were in around 85 or 87, and then she did not pass away until January 2001. So a very, very long journey for her. Find someone who understands to help. Find someone who can give you some time so you can, your unmet needs, you need to have them filled too. And find time to listen. And here, this is the hard part here. Go like this, letting go, letting go. It's hard to see the changes. They are who they were, but they're different. But letting go of how it used to be, how it should be, how you should be. You know, I'm be a better daughter if I did this. Let it go, because we have each other in the now, and using your skills and your knowledge and taking care of yourself to help us through the present. Here we go. And the last thing is identifying what you're good at and what it's not. And that's a hard thing. It's hard to acknowledge that if you're not good at something, and figuring out who can be there in that place where you're not. And recognizing that, and this is hard, especially in families with siblings, not everyone has the same skill set and is able to care for someone. So in my grandmother's case, my mother's two brothers were not able, and it was a source of deep resentment for my mother that they wouldn't come, but they had different roles and different skills, and eventually they found ways for them to contribute, but it was very, very hard. It was very, very hard. So I'm going to show a quick video here to kind of go through all the things we've talked about, thinking about the 6 pieces of the puzzle, who the person is, where they are in their dementia, understanding the unmet needs, bringing it together with visual, verbal, and touch cueing to help with a challenging behavior, what's seen as a challenging behavior, without coming to a fight. So this is Teepa Snow, who is the founder and the leader of the Positive Approach to Care. And she's in a long-term care facility with this lady, Leona. And Leona, you will see, is whacking on maracas on the chairs and irritating everybody in the facility. Okay, here we go.
Challenging behaviors, that's how we see it. They're misbehaving, they have problem behaviors. We've got to do something about this. Now I'm going to call a timeout right now, because the biggest problem we have right here is you've already identified the source of the behavior. You're pretty sure it's them and what they're doing. Time out. You need to take a step back and realize this is much more complicated than you think. And instead of being such a strong judge and jumping to conclusions, what I want you to do is back off and reframe this. I want you to realize that they're doing the very best they can to try to communicate with you, to meet a need, to express that they aren't liking what you're doing. And unfortunately, you simply see it as not getting your way. What you don't realize is that you started this very frequently in your effort to be helpful. Let me just say to you, you weren't as helpful as you thought you were. I didn't really enjoy the help you gave me. I didn't get it. So you have a choice right now. Are you going to continue to push your agenda to try to get where you want? Or can you take that step back and go, okay, well, this isn't working. Let me rethink. So what you want to do when you experience a behavior you're not liking, you need to, whoa, take that step back. Take a deep breath, let it go, and realize now it's time to kick in the front of your brain and to become a really good detective. Try to figure out what might be driving what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you're feeling, and what they're feeling. What maybe you're smelling and they're not picking up on, what they're tasting versus what you would be tasting. Because what you want to do is realize that you need to see it from their side. And once you see it from their side, you try to be in their shoes, figure this out. Suddenly, when you see things, hear things, experience things differently, and you make that choice, that decision to do that, the uh-oh becomes an aha, because you can start to realize it's the setting, it's the care, it's the gem. It's who they were before this all started. There's lots of pieces to the puzzle. Your job, if you want to do this well and do this over the course of this condition, is to stop the judgment, time yourself out, and reframe this behavior. Go from a challenging and frustrating, I just don't understand why she's doing this, to pausing for yourself, getting some help, maybe getting somebody else to take a look with you, because maybe you just can't see it because of who you are and how it works. But what you're going to do is take that step back, look more broadly, and at that point, make a decision. What are they trying to do? Are they communicating unmet physical need? There's basically 5 of them you want to learn about. Or an unmet emotional need. Or are you seeing the emotional need, but you're missing the physical need? Or was it something that is happening in the environment or happened earlier today? As I said, complicated. So you need some training. You need to know what's going on and what's not going on, so you can quit sitting in judgment and start using this. That's the best tool. That and your ability to bring people together to help you. So with challenging behaviors, it's not about them, it's about us and what we choose to do about this effort to communicate an unmet need, and helping us figure out what is the need and how can we better meet it for success for both of us. Making a positive difference because we choose positive approach to the care. Now remember this lady? What do you think she's doing? You see her beating on the chairs, making noise, annoying people, and you know she needs to go to the bathroom. It's been a long time. You've tried to make her stop, but she won't. What if I told you she used to clean houses for a living? I'm going to try substitution and a positive approach rather than trying to make her quit.
Miss Leona. Well, hey there.
Get your hand.
Get my hand out the way. You're trying to get him clean. Here, try this.
She's a busy woman.
There you go.
I'm going to
that.
try a substitution here.
I'll trade you.
Not yet. Show her.
Rub it with that. Can you rub it?
Yeah.
Here, rub
We're
it.
getting there.
Trade me.
Wait.
Trade me. Here you go. Take this.
All right, give it.
You got it. Now trade out. There you go.
Ta-da.
Now rub it.
Now I show her, and there she goes.
There we go.
People
Good.
are less annoyed, not so
Perfect.
much noise. And she's
Beautiful.
cleaning. Now I want to reinforce it. That's
Got-
good, that's good.
2 more to go.
But I still haven't met
You're doing a fantastic job.
her unmet need. One more substitution.
Nicely done, Leona.
She needs to get finished with this
Boy, you are good.
so we can move on.
You get this one?
Watch me, I'm sneaky.
That's it. Good. Good.
I visually eliminate the task.
Whoa. Woo! That is beautiful. You did a fantastic job. Man, you're a good cleaner. Here. Thank you. All right, well, come with me and we'll sit down and take a break.
Oh, God.
I know you're ready for
I'm
one, aren't you?
tired.
Now, before she goes to sit down, though, we have a place to go.
Oh, girl, you worked hard.
Oh, God.
You are one of the hardest working women I've ever met.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Well, Lord knows. Let's go to the ladies before we sit down, though.
Okay.
Okay.
We changed the challenge to success.